सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः.
Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters.
Opened your eyes and looking out at the world and trying to figure out what in the hell is really going on? Well, I tell you what, I think you've come to one of the good places to find some of that information out. Ramon and I here at the 100th Monkey Radio are doing our best to bring you some of the cutting-edge speakers, authors, presenters, etc., out there that are sharing this truth in the apocalypse that we are now going through, the unveiling. So, man, what an exciting time to be alive, isn't it, Ramon?
Yes, it's quite exciting, and a lot of things are happening out there, many weird things. But I want to thank everybody who's become a member. And thank you so much for supporting us and helping us out. And if you're not a member yet, you can go over to www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, and it's highly appreciated. And this helps it helps out the show. And I promise we're not buying Lamborghinis with the membership. Anyway, what I mentioned, the music you just listened to is by the Luminaries, and it's called Be the Change.
Yes, good stuff. Some good stuff. Check out the material. We've got some links on the site. And
for their websites, and if you like the music, you can get it on their website. Amazing. Finally, a music group that really speaks to what's happening.
Yeah,
these guys sound really awake.
Definitely got their finger on the pulse with it.
Yeah.
So tonight with us, we have somebody that most of you will be familiar with already through the BBS Broadcasting Corporation or
family
or whatever we want to call them. We've got Lance White with us tonight. He's a famed and gifted psychic healer, author, and exceptionally adept practitioner of question-triggered channeling. You will probably know him better by the name of Zany Mystic. And if you've ever listened to any of his shows, you understand exactly why they call him Zany, because he is so fun. So fun. So, Lance, how are you doing tonight?
I'm terrific, Tom. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, this is great to have you on. I've almost completed reading your book, and wow. I think we mentioned before we started recording tonight that, I think Ramon mentioned that, wow, you must have had some really boring lifetimes in the past, because this one is like, puts the icing on the cake.
And you know what's funny, Lance? That by looking at your picture, your picture now does not, you can't judge a book by its cover, because you just look like a regular guy. You don't look like the kind of guy who lived the kind of life that you have.
Well, I guess that's a compliment. I'll take it as such.
I'm sure it was put that way.
Yeah, it's not meant to be insulting, but it's just I was shocked with a lot of the things. So it's it's a really fun book, and you're a really good writer because it keeps you involved in the book, and you go through the motions with what you're going through at the time while you're reading the book. So, and that takes a really good writer to do that.
So, Lance, I'd like to start the questioning out with going into what triggered you to start looking into the more esoteric side of life.
Well, that's pretty simple. I was born empathic, and when I was a little baby, my family's friends were all kind of wild and crazy people. They were tarot readers and astrologers, and they would drive up to my hometown of Santa Barbara from Hollywood, and that's where my parents met and quote fell in love, if you can call it that. So I was raised in kind of a C version of Auntie Mame. And so I was empathic, and my dad would pick me up, and he was the only one who couldn't handle me. I'd start screaming and crying and pushing him away. And I found out later why this was. It didn't make any sense for about 30 or more years. But as an empathic baby just coming in, I was clean from the other side, a clean slate. And I was picking up his confusion and turmoil about his own sexuality. And he wanted a boy to teach and to train, but he also had very confusing sexual identity issues. He was bisexual, more or less. And my mother was, I would say, more leaning towards being a lesbian than being straight. She basically just liked to party and have a good time and have good sex. And, that's been going on since, since there have been, since anything has existed, because everything has to exist through some kind of interaction that is pleasurable, or nothing would exist. So that's, go ahead. Re-ask me that question again, because I got off on a tangent.
Well, I just wanted to know what triggered you into looking into the esoteric side of life.
Oh, the esoteric side. Okay. So I've always been curious about what's behind everything. From talking to invisible friends to just always wanting to delve deeper. And being an outcast, I never understood why I was an outcast. I just knew I was an outcast. I never fit in. My parents would send me off to grade school in sandals, and they were kind of bohemians, and it was like I just cringed walking to school because I was the only kid that wore sandals. Everybody else had Tom McCann zippered boots. Why couldn't I wear those? And I had hand-me-down pants that were too short with white socks. My mother would take dippity-doo and put it on my hair and a little spit and kind of do curls. I mean, it was just humiliating for a child, And I wish that I was cute as a baby. I mean, that was adorable. Blonde hair and all the rest. But as I got to be in grade school, I went through that gangly phase, where you're just so homely and so unattractive and everything's bulging out at the wrong places. And, so I was really insecure as a kid, and all the other kids were, more masculine and more secure within themselves. They had normal upbringings, I guess, and they just were secure in playing games and sports and ridiculing each other and slapping each other around. Well, I didn't like any of that stuff. So I pretty much retreated into my own world, and that has been the way it's been ever since. Now, I got very curious about the hidden side of life, having read a great deal of literature on psychology. And when I was in my teens, I was reading Sigmund Freud and Jung and the rest of it, and studying, metaphysics and the rest. And my grandparents were Masons, so they had all of the works of Manly P. Hall on the shelves.
Wow.
And yeah, exactly. And they didn't talk about their beliefs or their, the Masonic structure or anything, but they were both in it. My grandmother was a member of the Morning Star, the women's version, so they were quite wonderful teachers. They taught by being an example. They didn't teach by telling me how it should be. And when I was bored, I used to go through these books and look at, the pictures on Egypt. I don't know if I was a very good reader, but I was reading quite adamantly, even as a kid, mysteries, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, and I was always curious about, mysteries. And so this translated all my life into digging beyond the seen and the known. And it ultimately led me to join an esoteric school studying the ideas of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. And I'll kind of stop there and let you guys catch up with me.
So was that was the Fourth Way School?
Yes. when I first read the In Search of the Miraculous by P.D. Ouspensky, and I fell in love. I just was completely enamored with the mystical way and finding a teacher in a school, and of course they point out in that book that the only way man can complete himself is by having a teacher who's conscious. And so I heard the calling, and I chose a school. And as I write in the book, you should be more careful about choosing a school than you would doing your shopping at the grocery store. And I just took the first one that came along, being naive and foolish. And I've always played the fool in the tarot deck. And I step on the lily pad, and sometimes it's a landmine, but I've never blown my leg off yet.
Yeah.
So I was with them for about 4 to 5 years, studying the ideas of consciousness, raising consciousness, and the main idea that Gurdjieff brought forth was that we are born to complete ourselves, where we have the potential to become conscious and complete ourselves, but we have to do the work. And that made a lot of sense to me at the time, and it still does.
So this was your early 20s, right?
Yes. And in between there, I got married and divorced. So I dabbled with heterosexuality for a while, and I guess that was another area that I was just completely naive to for myself. Everybody else knew that I had a proclivity towards at least being bisexual, and as it turns out, I was actually gay. I did not know that. It was like I was the last person to find out. Everybody else saw the handwriting on the wall, but I had to get married and live with my wife before that, and we had a good relationship, and we were best friends before that, and we have remained good friends all of these years. In fact, I'll be returning to my hometown of Santa Barbara on December 9th and I'm actually writing with one of my guests, Amelia Benz, and I'm going to attend the meet and greet on the 11th, which is being held in Santa Barbara. So this is kind of...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's such a miraculous opportunity for me to spend time with one of my very favorite people in the whole world, and also to to see my ex-wife, and she's in her late 60s now. She's had a very difficult life, and take her out to dinner and see the house where I was born. And I mean, now I'm just so jazzed about it. I can't wait to take that trip. I really need to get out of the town for a couple of days and have a change of perspective.
Yeah. Do you still agree that that you need to find a teacher in order to grow spiritually?
No. I think that is we each have a different path that we've kind of tentatively laid out or sketched out, let's say, in the soul cosmic blackboard, with the various possibilities that we could go down various roads. And I think that it was important for me to go through that process and to be disillusioned and discover that the teacher was certainly quite fallible. He was human, and that it's not my destiny or my path or desire to continue being empowered through someone else. At this time, I feel that the energies have shifted sufficiently that we are fully capable of going within and discovering the God, Goddess, all that is, the bright star, the ball of light that we are, and pull that light out, as George Kavasilis likes to tell us, share with us, to pull that light out. And it's the first time I've ever heard someone publicly speak of this. Many people talk about, the violet flame and pulling in the ascended masters and the rest of it, and he says, no. And I agree with him 1,000%. Trust yourself, go within, connect with your own intuition, and you're fine. We are sovereign beings, and it's just a matter of peeling away all that is not.
It's all in, isn't it?
Say that again?
It's all in there, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And the funny thing is, I've said this for years, and I didn't understand it, and I still don't completely understand it. But everything is in us. Literally everything, the whole creation is within the smallest particle within us. And so you could take a nanobot. Well, that's a bad example. An organic nanoparticle from our holographic being, from our bodies, and you could literally create all this, with all of its permutations and parallel realities and the rest of it. So it's there. It's there within us.
I like the way Thomas Campbell puts it. He says that the only thing that is real is consciousness.
Nice.
Everything else is, he terms it virtual reality, but everything else is the manifest universe that we experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. And there are levels of consciousness.
Mm.
And that's the rub, because as Gurdjieff pointed out, we think that we're conscious already, and that's what keeps us from being conscious. Because we already think that we're conscious, because we call ourselves I all the time, and we have a name which is central and unique, and people treat us as if we're a unique being, then we think that we are already conscious. But most of humanity is not awake. They are not conscious, and they only experience moments of consciousness in near-death experiences or nearly fatal car accidents, or accidents, loud noises, anything that jars the being, the essence within, to awaken momentarily. And if you tell somebody that they're not conscious, they'll bristle and say, well, yes, I am, and in that moment they will be. But the next moment we fall asleep and we forget that that was just a moment. And the great masters throughout the ages who have incarnated here try to remind us that you're only as good as your last moment of consciousness. I'm paraphrasing. And that is something that gets strung together like pearls with a knot in between. And the only moments that we really remember are those intense moments which represent our higher consciousness. And ultimately, yes, we are just consciousness. But some people have, some people are stringing fake pearls onto strings without knots. So when the bead breaks, they roll all over the floor and you lose your plastic pearls. Well, number one, we want real pearls. The pearl, the great price, the pearl of wisdom, which Mayor Baba talks about, and you don't want to lose them all, so a wise person strings those together with intentionality and puts a knot in between. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was a little kid in Santa Barbara, my grandparents used to take us to the Baptist church, and there was a wonderful dear old soul, Mrs. Hamilton, who wore purple hats and with flowers, and she had lavender hair, and she was just she was like something out of The Wizard of Oz. And, she had long cheeks, and and she was just a character. And my grandparents, my grandmother was a jolly person, and my grandfather was tall and dignified. So here we are sitting in the Baptist church, towards the back of the pews, and Mrs. Hamilton, her beads became undone, and there were no knots in the pearls. I guess they weren't pearls, and every one of them fell down onto the floor, and the floor was wood, and it was tilting down towards the preacher. So every one of them bounced, and the whole congregation turned around and looked at us as all these beads fell off, and boing, boing, bah, 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 bah. And we had to wait about 5 or 10 minutes for them all to finally land, but it was a very funny moment, and that created memory. And those are the moments that we remember most, the moments that we are conscious but not self-conscious. We are in an observer state when we're observing from outside of ourselves.
He didn't happen to be preaching about casting pearls before swine at the time.
That could have been. That would have been perfect. Very good. We just wrote that moment. Very nice, Tom. Very nice.
One of the funny stories that I find when I was reading your book is the how you constantly find yourself in certain situations, and it almost seems like, well, somebody was really looking out for you, Lance. What did you ever later in life get a sense what that was really looking out for you?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I kind of roll all of that up into the word my team. For a long time, I was using things like my angels, my guides, my this, my that, and somebody on the show once referred to that whole package of entities, beings that are on the other side, whatever you want to call them, the higher dimensional realities that are guiding us through life. They referred to that as a team. So I thought that was a really good way to do it, because then there isn't this constant fumbling for, God, goddess, all that is, angels, hierarchy. You can just say my team. And I found recently that my team is not exclusive. It's shifting and changing continuously. And many of my guests have their teams, and I have connected with their teams and their teams, and it's quite an interesting web of light. So, yes, I think that there are specific guides that come from the soul realms, the higher dimensions where we come from, and they watch over us, because I have also heard stories from other people that have verified this. Cars slowing down in a car wreck and seeing everything in slow motion, and seeing hands guiding the steering wheels, and impossible things that could happen with altered physics. And so, yes, I am certain. In fact, there was a certain moment when I was looking at some synchronicity in San Francisco where I was living, and I had this epiphany that my life and those particular events, it could not have happened by themselves. There was absolutely no way. And that's when our denial is pierced, and the personality that we've created to interact with life kind of gets shattered. And I consider that to be part of the process of awakening. When our real life personality begins to crack, and hopefully we have one that's not too invested in our being right, which is the ego part, and it is capable of being loosened up by the true personality, which is an intentional creation, which is designed to communicate from our essence. But yes, there's no question about it.
So it's like Tom's proverbial 2x4.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Which I kept thinking that when I was reading your book, because I was like, ooh, he just got smacked again. Oh, he just got hit again. Because I remember, I can't remember who the guest was. Maybe Tom, you can remember. She was saying that on the other side, when we're ready to incarnate, we set up these buffers for ourselves. And basically, if we don't get it that time, then we set up a situation a little worse. Okay, if we don't get it then we make the situation a little worse.
Portland. Yes.
So,
absolutely right.
As I'm reading your book, I was like, wow, this guy set up a lot of buffers. He really wanted to get that. He wanted to get it right this lifetime.
Well, this is my last lifetime. I'm not going to be returning here. I can't really see beyond this, but I know that I came in to assist to raise the vibration of the planet, and that I have a higher purpose, as we all do. And my name, numerologically, if you spell the whole thing out and boil it down, works out to a 9, which is completion, and my birth date works out to a 9. And my book, which we're talking about, Tales of a Zany Mystic, I designed the title to work out to a 9 as well. And it was published in 2007, which is a 9. So that was all intentional on my part. And I had to sweat bullets to get it in 2007, but it was very important to me, because that was, I don't know, I had to do it. I was told, or I was led to do that, to believe that was really important. So for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I
think there's a lot of us here right now that are here for that same purpose. There's a lot of us. Here specifically to raise the vibration and to assist with the awakening.
Well, yes. And one thing that I haven't discussed yet that, I know that can be a taboo subject for people because we don't like to discuss anything that's we don't understand, and it's difficult to talk about these things even today. But I contracted HIV, and in the year, actually it was 1982, I discovered recently. So that puts me in as a very long-term survivor with HIV and AIDS. So
you're
I had
actually
it over for 30 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're actually the oldest I know.
Yeah,
Most of the guys
yeah.
Most of the guys I know, they're like 10, 15 years, but yeah, you're definitely one of the veterans.
No question about it. And, so here I am after decades of partying, living alcoholically. I mean, if I had a penny for every time I got drunk and passed out, I'd be a very wealthy man today. And then when I was 48, after 10 or 11 years of continuous sobriety, and then a few little slips in between with alcohol, when I was 48, living in San Francisco, I discovered methamphetamine. And so I just kind of stumbled into it, and a friend wanted to buy it, and he was getting some bad stuff, and he had AIDS. So I said, well, I'll see if I can find some that's better if you want to buy it a little above cost, and it'll pay for mine. Well, little did I know I was going to end up a major drug dealer in San Francisco out of my tiny postage stamp apartment on Potrero Hill, and that I was going to end up moving pounds of this shit. And so, and shooting it up. I mean, who would have thought, middle-class white boy, and or that I would live through it. But because I had HIV for so long, by then it was in the 20-year range, and I thought, I'm not going to live through this. There's no way. I'm going to be dead in a year or two, so I maxed out all my credit cards, bought, junk, and eventually had to pay them off 2 or 3 times. This happened 2 or 3 times.
And your higher self
yes.
said, no, you ain't going nowhere.
Right. And I was trying, believe me. I was burning the candle at both ends. There was no stone I left unturned in that process, believe me. You can ask me whatever you want. I'll tell you the truth as long as it's not too shocking for the audience. But I think we have a pretty adult group now. This is the 20th. Is it 20th or 21st century?
21st, I think. Yeah.
Okay, and I think I come from about the 25th or 6th. So, all of this place is really backwards to me. I'm sure I have an aspect of myself or more in the future, because I've always thought this was a barbaric planet, and I have that thought has only grown with time, and it gets more barbaric every day.
Yeah. So let's dive into the HIV, because I find that very important, because I've had 3 friends pass away from it, and I have a few friends living with it, and so that's the part of the book that I was finding really, really hard to get through. But what would be for the person who's listening to this, who either has a friend or a family member, or who themselves is living with it, what would you say to them to get them by? Because you've been living with it for 30 some odd years, and how is it that Lance White made it to 2011 when that's almost unheard of?
Yes, exactly. And I'll tell you what the pivotal point was. There was a definite turning point for me. In the 80s, I was, surrounded with death. Everybody was taking AZT. They were, doctors were prescribing it in immense doses. And I finally caved in and thought, well, I'd better take it or I'll be dead. So I started taking AZT at about, somewhere in the 80s. I contracted it in 82 through the hepatitis B vaccination study. And that's another story. I won't get into that right now. But around the latter part of the 80s, I started taking AZT. Well, everybody was getting sick from it, and I didn't, I thought, well, this is what you have to do. So I was living on Potrero Hill and walking my friend's dog, and I was walking up the hill, and I had no energy, and I felt like an old man. I was in my 30s at that time, and I felt like I was dead. There was no life force in me at all, and I couldn't summon any into my body. There was no way I could rely on it, and I stopped in my tracks, walking up the hill, huffing and puffing, and thought to myself, if this is what it's like to live with HIV, taking drugs, I'd rather be dead. And I made the choice, the conscious choice at that moment, to live my life fully until I didn't, until I died. And at least I would be feeling decent. And so I went home, took the AZT, and I flushed it down the toilet. And I never took drugs again. I mean, I can't say never. I didn't take drugs again for over 20 years. I did a lot of experimental things that were underground cocktails and things you painted on your arms, and I did everything you could find through the underground media and through friends, because San Francisco was quite a hotbed of people who were researching and studying. I mean, we really, those of us who were on the forefront of this, really got down and dirty, and we used ourselves as experiments. And I continue to do that today. I'm still experimenting on myself, and my most recent experiment has been to terminate all of my medicines. And this is something we can get into later if you'd like to, but I have recently made a decision. So just to bring you up to speed, no puns intended, I stopped taking all HIV meds and for 20 years, and when I finished my sentence for dealing meth, I was pleaded guilty a second time to felony dealing. I was moving pounds of this stuff, and they caught me again. And I spent a year in a live-in home, which was a wonderful experience, and then I moved up to my house here in Placerville that my dad had left me to write the book about my experiences and my encounters with angels and how I literally was pulled out of the fire. I mean, I feel like I was just snatched out of the jaws of death again. I mean, I've had hundreds of near-death experiences. I've totaled 2 cars. I've overdosed with drugs. I shot up meth in the 90s, late 90s and early 2000s, and lived through all of this. And I'm sitting here talking about it, so that's nothing short of a miracle. So that tells me that I must be here to share this story, and so here I am.
Yeah, we have a few very interesting parallels. I was a few years ahead of you. I was end of the 80s, early 90s when I was dealing meth. And same deal. I started the same way. I mean, guys were getting crap, and I was like, oh, right. I could find some better stuff. And so I decided to be, just like you said in your book, the honorable dealer, that always that never cut anything, always gave them the highest quality stuff, and a good deal, the best anybody could find. I made enough off of it to support my own habit, and I was doing pounds also. Mm-hmm. And I got arrested.
Wow!
And well, I didn't. You seem to have had a little easier time with the court system than I did. I ended up in San Bernardino County Jail for 10 months for first time ever being arrested for anything. I guess I was being made an example or something. I don't know, but
location.
No, I'll tell you what. That whole experience was one of the most rewarding times of my life, as far as opening my eyes and the growth and the mystical, magical experiences that happened in there.
There goes that 2x4.
Tom is so right. I had more mystical experiences, epiphanies and awakenings and higher consciousness and connections in jail in San Bruno. I was only there for a couple of months, but I'm telling you, it was a spiritual experience.
Yes.
Bar none.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I got arrested, but not for drug possession. I got arrested for fighting and stuff like that. But it's when it's almost like a big squeeze that it forces you to really look. And it's funny because I got arrested with a friend of mine's, and at that moment, it's not that we never became enemies. We're still friends to this day, but our lifestyles really split there because he went down one path and I went down a different path. And not saying that either one is better than the other, but that's when I really started reading books on astral projection and looking for something better, because I was like, this can't be it. I mean, this can't be what my life is gonna be. You know, at that moment, I didn't know if I was gonna go to jail, and there were people looking for me and stuff like that. So,
looking over the old shoulders.
Yeah. So that's when I started suffering from acute paranoia. So I was thinking, you know, everybody's looking for me, and at times there were, and other times they weren't.
I don't think there's anything cute about paranoia at all.
Huh?
I don't think there's anything cute about paranoia at all.
It's terrible, isn't it?
I said
anybody who's done any kind of significant kind of math about paranoia.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing I wanted to kind of put some emphasis on about advice to those who are now dealing with HIV, being diagnosed or having AIDS, is the important. If I had to give advice, it would be follow your own advice. And if I had not listened to myself and had followed everybody else's, like sheep, they were jumping off the cliffs, taking huge doses of AZT, and people were dying left and right. Well, they weren't necessarily dying from the, quote, dis-ease. They were dying from the high doses of medications and the lack of information and ignorance of the medical community, because their philosophy is to treat the symptoms, and they don't have the subtle awareness of a higher consciousness to understand the body's supreme intelligence and how amazing it is if you just let it go and give it a little boost. You can heal yourself. Yeah. And one of the most important things, if I had to say anything about how to heal yourself, it would be do not drink tap water. And if you have to drink water that's even spring water has inorganic minerals, drink distilled water. Because it will pull all of the inorganic minerals out of your pineal gland and your glands and your body, and it will cleanse you. And you'll find yourself attracted to different foods. So that in itself is one of the biggest clues that I found recently, and that triggered many epiphanies for me when I had Andrew Norton Weber on my show about drinking distilled water.
I gotta say, for our audience out there, you need to find that. What's your YouTube channel, really quick?
Oh, yes. It's Zany Mystic Radio.
Yeah. You need to find that one. It's such an amazing show. That interview was so amazing and so much information. I mean, the guy really did his homework.
Yeah. And Chrissy McMahon, one of my guests, Diana Lupi, who wrote the book ET 101, the instruction manual, and she has a website, I think it's called ET 101 as well, but if you Google Diana Lupi, it's one of the funniest, most, the wittiest, deepest books that I've ever read. I laughed, I howled, I was awed, I was moved. And it's ET 101, the instruction manual. And she had sent me a link to this interview that Chrissy McMahon had done with Andrew Weber. They met up in South America, and he was talking about the uses of distilled water to heal the body and to remove the toxic chemicals that we're being exposed to, including the chemtrails. And distilled water does not hold radiation. Radiation is an element that's heavier than the water, so it's removed from distilled water. So you don't even have to worry about radiation. You can go get a gallon of distilled water and drink it and wash your body out, and it's amazing the gunk that will come out of your body when you start to discover this cleanse. And, Dr. Bragg, who wrote, so many books about health, Bragg's vinegar and his amino acids and the rest of it. He's an amazing guy. And he wrote a couple of books. One is called the Miracle of Fasting. Another one is The Shocking Truth About Water. And they're revolutionary, and they're just as vital today, if not more important, given the various attempts to dumb us down that seem to be working. And we need to take the responsibility for our own consciousness, because that's what's at stake here. Our very souls are hanging in the balance, and the soul of the planet and the soul of all that is affirming and positive. It's a battle between what's organic and real and artificial and inorganic.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, and you've opened several doors that I want to go down the path, and I'm trying to choose which one to to go down. But with that being said, one of your shows you had Jay Widener on, and you guys really got into the whole alchemy.
Yes.
But before, sorry, sometimes my brain jumps around. So before we get into that, I had my mother start doing the water therapy, and here in Japan I can't find distilled water, so I have to buy a distiller.
Okay.
But my mother is able to get it, and I had my sister. I said buy her the gallons and make sure she's drinking it. And sometimes she'll do half a gallon, sometimes she'll do a whole gallon, and. She suffers from arthritis, so she's starting to let go of the arthritis pills, which is good because the ones they had her on were so highly addictive, and I was like, Mom, that's just gonna turn you into a heroin addict. Because
right.
I mean, at the kind she was taking is not, it's a few notches below heroin. Yep. And I said those things are so highly addictive. You need to be careful.
Yep.
So I'm glad that she's doing the water therapy.
Well, yes, and one thing I'm learning about is that the ancient technology of drinking your own fluids is very much alive in the countries in Asia. China and Asia, Japan are all familiar with drinking your own water, which is distilled water. And so that's how Andrew discovered the relationship between, urine therapy, which is not anything shocking or new. It's been going on for thousands of years. The Romans used to pay, you used to have to pay taxes to collect the urine. It was so valuable. Models use it on their faces and their bodies, and people use it for healing purposes. And, that can get into a very lengthy subject. But he made the correlation of the jump, which nobody else had that I have heard, that distilled water is equally effective at cleansing the body. So no longer do we have to point our noses up at, oh my God, how terrible, to drink your own fluids. But let's think about it this way. What if the water of life was your own water? What if the Creator created a being so self-contained and so sovereign that we could walk into the desert and drink our own water, or drink each other's even? I mean, I could care less where it comes from, and live. And I believe that the 40 days and 40 nights included fasting and drinking his own, Christ, drinking his own urine, his own fluids. And it's, the more research I do on this, the more convinced I am that this is the path that people have used for thousands of years. And it's the best kept secret on the planet.
Well, let's make another connection. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
let's make another connection. So we have the distilling of the water, and then the body distilling itself.
Right.
If for anybody who's read the book of Aquarius, and I recommend you guys go and read that book. Which Lance, you've read it, right? Or at least
Yes,
heard
yes.
the audio.
Yes.
That's the secret of alchemy, right there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Exactly.
So
And,
it's quite
yeah.
amazing. So
Yes,
what
it
he was
is.
saying really, really for me put the nail in the coffin. Oh, bad use, but it really did it for me when he was explaining that, and then I was comparing it with the Book of Aquarius, and I was like, holy shit! I had
Yep.
the oh shit moment, and I was like,
Me
this guy
too.
really knows what he's talking about.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had the same epiphany, and all of my close friends have had similar epiphanies when out of my own excitement, I I was sent the link to that radio show with Andrew Norton Webber that was on Chrissy McMahon's Bobcha's Pearls. You can Google it and find it. It's one of the episodes there. Wonderful show, wonderful interview, and I was so amazed and startled at the new information. Now, mind you, I have studied esoteric scriptures, esoteric schools. I've been in one. I have studied consciousness. I have done everything possible to raise my own, including, taking LSD and ecstasy and some various other substances to connect spiritually. And I have left very few stones unturned. And when I heard Andrew talking about this, after listening to Jay on my show, in one show he was talking about the collection of dew, and that makes so much sense, because one of my earlier guests was Jasmine the Breatharian, and I don't want to digress onto that, but you can pull the prana from the air. That is where the positive charges are. So the dew, if it's caught before it gets to the ground, it does not lose its charge, and that's the secret of all of these technologies, is to get these fluids into ourselves and to recycle them before they lose their positive charge and ground themselves, because it's a magnetic thing, and it has to do with the electromagnetics of the body and positive and negative polarities. Well, we are acid. Everything we take in is dead food, and the water is dead. Everything's dead. If you drink treated water from the tap, and most people listening probably don't do that. They've got water filters or reverse osmosis, and but if you do take those things in, you're ingesting 30 or 40 chemicals. To the top killers are fluoride, mercury, and then you've got barium, aluminum, and there's a list. You can Google it and find out for yourself. And you can't taste any of these things. You might taste the chlorine, but
you definitely smell it and taste it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you start drinking distilled water, it's soft, it's uncharged, and it relates to, you can actually intend something with that water, and it actually works. I mean, not that you couldn't with dead water, but there's a difference between waters. There's 7 different types of water. And it's not just, there's water and there's water and there's water. It is not like that. Once you open the door, you can find out that there is a big difference, and it has a different charge than the regular water we get. So the body is able to become balanced between positive and negative, and it becomes more alkaline, and that's when your psychic and empathic abilities really kick into high gear. And that's one of the benefits of doing it, besides being able to live without all of these debilitating diseases. Fluoride being moved around in the body to places where it won't do any harm. Well, eventually it does do harm. All of these substances accumulate in the nerve endings, in the joints. And so you get up and you're sore and your back aches and, you have a headache. Well, it's no wonder. We're eating dead food and we're drinking dead water. What do you expect? We're walking zombies.
And we're breathing dead air.
Yeah.
And we're breathing dead air.
Let's not forget about that. Yeah, I teach English here in Japan, Lance, and I was telling one of my students, is like, what are we doing? And he was like, huh? Because I was like, okay, so we polluted the water, we've polluted the land, we polluted the air, and we polluted the space around the Earth. What the hell is wrong with us? And he just was like, I don't know. I was just like, because I'm looking at this article of what the space around the Earth looks like. But anyway,
yeah.
Sorry to go out in a tangent.
Well, it's okay because we're in a negatively run. It's run by negative entities behind the scenes. So I don't blame the human race for our being stupid. We're just stupid because we were born slaves, and we have been since the beginning of time. There might have been a couple of golden ages. Okay, well, big deal. The whole evolution of this beautiful planet should have been one of purity and beauty and divine archetypes. It has not been that way. And this is the opportunity at this time to step up to the plate and make these course corrections. And there are going to be people that are going to go off with those who are able to fool us with false love and light. And there's a lot of that going on right now. Not all that poses as love and light is love and light. So we have to be really observant and discerning. And the best way, as I see it, is to cleanse the body so that the body can inform us through the body of the planet, through the body of the sun, and connect to the higher dimensions so that we're not drawn into the lower densities, which are battling for our attention and our focus right now.
Right.
Yeah. Les, do you find it easier now, in this point in your life, to connect things together?
Absolutely. No question about it. I have been through some very difficult awakenings, even as recently as September. On September 27th, as a direct result of listening to the shows about distilled water and following it, I went out the next day when I heard that radio show, and I bought 32 gallons of distilled water at Walmart. I was absolutely certain that this was the right path for me. It was as if my whole life had been keyed to this particular moment in time, and I was being called into service. And so I started the distilled water, and then on the 27th, I went through an amazing metaphysical, I call them altered states, a higher density consciousness. And during this time, I began journaling, and I had an epiphany to stop all medications. My HIV meds, I'm on a cocktail of 3 different medications. I have been for several years now, and I thank the pharmaceutical companies for making them. They have kept me alive, at least that's what I thought. And they raised my T cells, and my viral load went down to 0. Then I was taking Vicodin for pain, because I was having back pain, Ativan for sleep, 3 different blood pressure medications, and 2 antidepressants.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And because of these energy shifts that I have been going through, because I feel everything, but I hadn't been feeling them fully because I have trouble feeling these intense energies coming in. I was popping Ativan like it was candy, and I knew that it was dulling my consciousness and awareness. So on the 27th of September of this year, 2011, I sat there with my 7-day pill dispenser, and I stopped. And I figured out the numerology of it, and it was an 1111 and 22. Anyway, it had significance for me, so I thought, okay, this is it, now or never. I'm at the edge of the cliff. I have some new wings, and I'm going to jump and see if I can fly. And if I don't fly, I'll land and I'll die and I'll go on and fly anyway. So, I mean, there's, it's a win-win situation. If I eventually contract some kind of fatal disease from this, then that was the way I chose to take myself out. But I think that having survived so many,
I was about to say that.
That I think I can take this one jump, this one leap, and live in the question mark and with the uncertainty of death truly hanging over my head this time, because I negate all pharmaceutical companies. I don't like what they stand for, and I don't like what they're doing. They're taking the money and they're doing some things with it that are pretty bad, and they're killing us. So I am disconnecting from that, and I'm returning to the organic state, and I'm giving the God within, the God, Goddess, all it is, within, the power over my body. And in that way, I am turning my life basically over to the care of God.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So we're coming up to the end of the hour.
Yes.
So I want to give Lance a chance. We're gonna come back on the archive on the second part, so don't worry.
Okay.
We'll
right.
have more of Lance.
Lance
I want to give you a chance to say where people can find you and where they can buy the book.
Oh, good. Thank you. Well, my book is called Tales of a Zany Mystic, and it got wonderful reviews from Barbara Hanclow and Daniel Jacob, and George Kavasilis raved about it on the air when we pre-recorded the last two shows. He was just overwhelmed with praise. I mean, I was just floored. I was almost speechless. But anyway, my book is available at Amazon Books if you type in Tales of a Zany Mystic, and you can find it there at a discount or whatever. And then I have some very dear friends who started a wonderful company in Washington called WaterMeWell.com, and they are selling a version, the book, with a signed parchment by me and a personal crystal that I have blessed and charged with love and consciousness and the rest, that I've owned for 10 years, and I cleansed a batch of them and sent them up there, and that's a special package that they're offering, so you can get the book signed with a personal crystal from me at www.watermewell.com. And my radio show is a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic on Saturdays at 7 p.m. live and free. And if you want to subscribe to the archives, I would appreciate going through my affiliate link, which is at www.firesidechat.com, and you can, the information is all there to find.
Well, I want to thank you for those crystals too with your book.
Yes.
I really appreciate them. They feel so nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. I picked. I mean, they just picked themselves out.
Yeah.
They tell me,
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is a really great idea that my friends at Water Me Well suggested it, and then I thought, well, I'm going to start doing this with all my books. I'm just going to put in an extra little present, something that can be enjoyed and communicated with, and it's just, I love it. I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're very welcome.
With the crystals I received, the first thing was like bury them. So I bury them. I bury them right next to my plants where I grow my parsley.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So now I have a connection with your parsley.
Yes.
And I have parsley too, and I have some of the crystals in the parsley bed. So
There you go.
who knows? Maybe they're talking more than we know.
Yeah, maybe they're doing their own interview now.
Exactly.
I mean, if you ever watch The Secret of Plants, yeah, you really start questioning that one. Like, hey, what are you guys talking about over there?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, we are out of time here, guys. So I want to thank everybody for listening here on BBS. Stay tuned for Brooks Agnew next, and then pop on over to the member section on the 100thmonkeyradio.com and check out the second hour with Lance. We're going to get into some very interesting stuff here. So love you guys. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance, and
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
good night, everyone.
Krishnaya te namaha.
Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score. To maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting the seed. To fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda, killing my creed. Or what don't kill me, make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fighting for interest before it's attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante. While the anti-proletariat hold the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light,
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the trees, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light,
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
Okay, we're recording, and this is just hilarious because Ramon and I and now Lance, we all did it again. We're sitting here talking off the air in between hours, and we're putting out some really good information, and it just all of a sudden we go, hang on now. We do this so often. I mean, just the people that come on the show are just so amazing, and I mean, any chance we have to talk with like-minded people and people who are out there in this area that are touching and experiencing and sharing. It's impassioned. We get impassioned so easily, and the conversation just goes off.
Yeah.
And this good material starts dropping in there, and then we go, oh no, we're not recording.
Oh shit.
So welcome to the members section, all you members. We love you dearly, and thank you for becoming a member. And oh man, Lance, this I want to thank you so much for joining us. This is really good stuff. I feel a very fundamental bond with you. We are family for sure.
No question about it, and I feel that way with you guys. So the pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine.
I wanted to start off with what are some of, I don't know if side effects is the right word, but what are some of the things you feel or go through when you start the distillate? Well, first of all, how much distilled water should we be drinking per day when we start this cleansing?
Well, what's nice about this is that our own evolution is our own responsibility, and we have complete, well, I wouldn't say control because we don't really have control over many things, but we do have some degree of control over the levers and dials and gas pedal of how fast we awaken. And so if it gets to be too painful and too intense, we can back off, step on the brakes, and that can be done by decreasing something that we've started. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So what Andrew suggested, and what I did, was to drink 1 gallon a day of distilled water, and he suggested getting it at Walmart. So that's how I began doing it. And it's really easy to do. I make my coffee with it, and then I bang down at least a third of that gallon because it wakens me up in the morning and it flushes the body out. And you'll have to develop your own processes, but the good thing about it is that you can do more or do less. Just don't mix other things with it like tap water. You don't want to negate the charge that the distilled water will pull out the inorganic minerals. You don't want to put them back in again and just be flushing out the same old stuff. So I started with 1 gallon a day, and after about a week, let's say 7 days, I started going through some major detox. And then when I stopped all of my medications at once at the same time on September 27th, 2011, I thought I was going to die. I went through the worst detox I've ever had in my life, and I have detoxed off methamphetamine several times, maybe 12, 15, 20 times, I don't know how many times, off of prescription drugs 100 or 200 times, off of alcohol maybe 300 times, and so I've done this all over and over, and it's like that proverbial 2x4 brick hitting your head. I seem to require that, at least one 2x4 or 4x4. And so this was a detox off of my pharmaceuticals, which included HIV drugs, and they all get into the bone and the bone marrow, and I had no idea how difficult it would be, but the inner guidance I was getting was keep going, break through the egg. This is the time, there is no other time. This is the moment you have to seize. And I could have put it off, later, but I didn't. And so I began detoxing off of all my medications as well. So if I advise people do whatever is the easiest, softest way, unless you want to do what I do, and that's step on the gas and find out what what happens when you get over the hill. I'm so curious about higher states and psychic abilities and increasing my empathic abilities that when I heard all that, I thought, okay, I want it. And I was willing to go to any lengths to get it, and I did. And I paid the price. And when I went to sleep, I wasn't going to sleep. When I started doing distilled water, I was staying awake all night long. I would close my eyes for 15 or 20 minutes and go into a lucid dream. The next day, I was busy all day long, rituals and writing in my journal. And so you might find that you're completely in an altered state, and that's okay. Just go with it if you are comfortable with it. If you have to go to work, well, you can cut back on the distilled water and just slow down a bit. But I didn't have to work. I'm retired, and so I went for it. And the next day, after the 27th, after I'd cut out all my meds, I took my blood pressure in the morning because I'd cut those 3 blood pressure pills out also. And I took it several times, and it was 89/58, and my pulse was 39.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't the batteries low because I just changed them. And, I've been taking my blood pressure for several years, so I'm familiar with the blood pressure cuff I have. And that's what it was. And I also noticed the difference in that everything seemed crystalline. My hearing changed. My vision changed. My thinking changed. My subtle senses started kicking in, and I was picking up messages, not verbal messages, but subtleties that I had not been getting. So I have not gone back since middle September to any other form of living. I haven't taken my meds, and I don't know how that will translate into my body chemistry work when I go in to have my lab work done on the 20th of December, but it'll be what it is, and we'll just have to see. If it's really good, it'll be good. If it's not, well, it is what it is, and I won't try to say, oh yeah, my blood work was great, I'm healed, and the rest. I'm not going to do that. If it's crappy and it looks bad, I'm going to say, well, this is what it is. So we'll see. I'm using myself as a glamorous guinea pig, so to speak.
So where's your blood pressure at now?
It stayed low for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then it started vacillating wildly, and I was tuning to the frequency of the crystalline core of the Earth. I see the core of the Earth as being crystalline, not iron, and I was tuning my own crystalline core, which is you could say it's the heart center, the heart chakra, if you want to call it that, but it's not really that. It's a crystalline core. It connects to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is crystalline as well. That's our inner antenna. If you look at insects, they have antenna that they use. Dogs use their ears. You can see the fine hairs in the ears twitching and the rest of it. We have our senses cleverly put where nobody can see them on the inside. So the pineal gland is like an eyeball with rods and cones which faces the other direction. So you're literally turning direction to get into the spiritual realms and the spiritual planes, which is just your vast body of cosmic light within. So I've been tuning to the Earth's frequency, and I felt the shifts occurring at night when I was laying down to close my eyes and going into a lucid dream. I didn't sleep for about a week, and I had tons of energy that eventually passes as gas does. I mean, I'd love these higher states to last forever, and eventually they will. We are reaching a point where we will crystallize as the light beings that we are, that we came in to be, that we already are. But in the meantime, we're kind of going through this shaking out process and tuning to these various frequencies, which I believe is the connecting to the Earth, the feminine aspects of creation, which is the Divine Mother. The Milky Way is a divine feminine creation. The Andromeda strain is the masculine, and everything has its counterpart. So don't be afraid when you go through a detox, because people pass all kinds of horrendous things that have accumulated in the body for decades.
What's some of the things? I'm sorry. What's some of the things you went through? Because I remember hearing.
Oh my God. Well, I attribute the bulk of this to my having stopped all my meds, so I can't really distinguish between what a natural detox would have been had I not stopped, taking Vicodins and Ativans and antidepressants. But I'll tell you what I did experience with mind-blowing pain in my head. I felt like my head was going to blow off, and I was doubled over a lot of that time with abdominal pain, and my whole body was racked with pain. And I was throwing up at that night. I threw up a few times, and I did a read of my own system, and my body was telling me that I was also experiencing a release of Kundalini energy, and that I needed to let it out, because the Kundalini energy will come up through the spinal cord, through the base of the spine. It actually untangles. The snake becomes erect, and it's a ladder, and it comes out the top of your head in a natural state. It's like the thousand-petaled lotus. or you could see it as a sparkler, if you want to envision it as a 4th of July sparkler. So if you have a sparkler in your head and it has no way to get out, it can be extremely damaging to your psyche. So the best thing to do if you start having headaches and body pains is to flush, and to let remember that if there's a Kundalini release, you have to let it out the top of your head. So being active, running, doing something energetic, staying in constant movement like perpetual motion is helpful for me. But we each can find our own guidance, and that's where tuning within to your own intuition is vital, because I can't tell anybody else what to do. Each of us has our own process and our own chemistry and our own unique path, so there is no such thing as one size fits all. I used to enjoy some of the New Age writers that say, well, we're going through this and we're all experiencing that right now, and for a while that was pretty good information. But I began to notice that I wasn't experiencing what this one and that one was saying, and I wasn't going through what we were all going through, and so I started being more discerning, and eventually I realized, well, look, this is just a bunch of hooey. You're going through it, and you're projecting your experience onto the rest of us. So no doubt there were many people going through the same thing, but we each have our own path. So the best thing to do is go within and ask yourself, is this something good? Test it. Test everything. Go to your refrigerator. Open it up. If you look at the package of uncooked meat in there and it's revolting, throw it away or cook it up and give it to your dog, give it to your friends. I started cleaning my refrigerator out. I couldn't eat what was in there. Everything I had been living on was just horrifying. And so I began this process of pulling things out of my refrigerator, throwing things away, cooking up meat for the dog, and eventually I ended up, without reading any of the books that I'd been sent by Andrew about urine therapy or distilled water therapy or fasting, I was doing it anyway, intuitively. I was juicing, and fresh fruits and vegetables. I was juicing with my juicer. I have an old Acme juicer that makes a lot of noise. And I was drinking the distilled water, and I started recycling my own water in addition to that. So, and here's a little tip on recycling your own fluids. If you, because a lot of people have asked me, my closest friends are doing it now, was one person who's a friend of a friend who's healing herself after 25 years of a debilitating disease, and she is literally healing herself by using her own fluids, and she's gone gung-ho. And I will probably be having her on the show at some point. But when it comes to drinking your own bodily fluids, don't do anything that doesn't taste good. If it doesn't taste good, you're not supposed to drink it or eat it. And I follow that rule with restaurants, with other foods. If something doesn't smell good or taste good or look good, if there's something off about it, I don't eat it. I just threw away 3 pieces of pumpkin pie and some cookies because I literally couldn't stomach it. And I've been pulling meats out of my freezer and cooking it up for my dog. Granted, a part of me would like to gnaw on a bone, and if I feel like it, I will do that. But today was not the day. My dog got lucky today. So if you drink your urine, then what I advise is do what feels right. Take a taste to see what's coming out of your body, because that is a great way to get feedback from your body. And by putting it back in, even if it's a few drops or a thimbleful, you can see, oh my God, it tastes so dense and salty. What's up with that? It's awful, and spit it out. I spit some of it out myself. And what I've learned is that when I cook foods, even vegetables that are organic and fresh from the organic vegetable store, health food store, it densifies the food, and it becomes salty. Everything you cook becomes salty. You cook everything out of it. I have a friend that's a naturopath, and she puts the whole dinner in the microwave. Well, hello, there goes all the phytonutrients and the subtle elements. They're zapped, The Pleiadians say, according to Barbara Marciniak, don't even have a microwave in your house, and unplug your televisions. it's not even about not watching it, but don't even plug them into the electrical field, which is a distortion wave. We are surrounded by distortion waves and interference patterns, which are cleverly designed. So it's really quite brilliant. We've been kept on electricity not only because it's metered and they can make a trillion, bajillion dollars off of us, but because they are all keeping us encircled with artificial waves, which don't allow us to communicate freely. Then you've got artificial intelligence. I mean, it just gets deeper and deeper. You know, as deep as you want to go, it goes that deep. So ideally, if you really want to connect to everything, to all that is, go out to your house, if you live in a house, and shut off the main power switch and live with candles at night. Start getting used to being in the dark. You'll see the light in the with your eyes open, and when you close your eyes, you'll see the same light. You'll be opening and closing your eyes, going, "Wait a minute, it's light in here." So it's really true. Jazz Mahin's the breatharian that I saw at Mount Shasta with David Icke a decade or so ago, and she was on the show, and she talked about leading groups of people to try breatharianism, which is pulling the prana from the air, and she was taught by yogis and masters to do this. So she has not eaten solid food for quite a long time. And what I'm finding with distilled water, it is so satisfying and so wonderful and so juicy, and with my own liquids recycling in addition to that, once I get a clean, once I get some that is very light, it tastes almost like distilled water. There's no flavor to it whatsoever, and it's actually kind of compelling. It's like an addiction. And maybe I'm getting addicted, and if so, I'm getting addicted to my own fluid. So what's the harm? At least I'm not out there buying drugs and stuffing and putting needles in my arm.
Yeah. Not that you ever did those things.
Yeah.
Oh, not me, never. Well, I used to roll around on the floor when I was dealing meth in San Francisco. I did that for 4 years. I tried to stop several times, and by that time I was injecting it. And I remember one very painful moment. It's as clear as a bell. This is one of those conscious moments. I had lost my boyfriend, and I didn't know he was going into a recovery home to recover from me, but I was his big slip. And so I had to figure out how to do it myself, and I figured it out. And I remember this moment where I was looking at my arm, and I had tied it off, and I had the needle right above my vein, and I just asked God to forgive me for puncturing the holy temple of my body. And I put the needle in and gave myself my shot, and I was okay. And I'll never forget that moment. And the answer I got, or the visuals I got, or the feeling I got was, this isn't forever. You will get through this, and you will come out the other side triumphant. That was the emotional feeling I got. And I continually got those, even in my darkest dealing days, and they got very dark. I continued to get positive reinforcement that this is temporary. You're going through this for a reason. We sent you down into this realm to go into these areas. You knew this. You will be pulled out, and you'll be all right. So here I am talking to you today. I'm not drunk, believe me. I'm tongue-tied, but that's just my mind. You know, it gets all like a pretzel sometimes.
So what's well, let's as I always say, let's take Tom's spaceship and go into the more bizarre. Not that we really touch on bizarre.
Tom's spaceship.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
okay.
If I have to explain that, it's going to be a whole nother show. But so have you had any physical contacts with well, I hate using the word aliens, but with our outer cousins or ultra-dimensional beings or anything like that?
Yes. I have. I've had higher dimensionals enter into other people's bodies to teach me. And the longest, that's one thing that's happened. I've had angels basically step into somebody's body and tell me information. I had an overdose of GHB in 2001 on my birthday, 9/11, and when I woke up on my birthday, after having died, I guess, the Twin Towers were on the air, and I felt like I was in the astral plane. So, and I had just turned 50. I was exactly 50 when the Twin Towers hit, supposedly, if that's how it happened. And so, have I met any? I haven't seen any grays. I haven't seen any ET races that are different, but I've been taken up the dimensions by beings that I would say are quite possibly Pleiadian in nature, or higher dimensional, as in the angelic realms. And they have worked, and they have used a body and come in various elements of this higher dimensional frequency, have come in and worked with me and shown me things that I needed to know, and asked me if I wanted to leave at that time or if I wanted to continue on to the final, till the end of this experience. And I chose to stay. And so I was worked with by, let's just say, Archangel Michael. Well, you might call it that. I don't like to use names because we all have so much baggage about it. But it was like that energy, and it was also, there were moments when there were elements of what I would say would be a creator energy, and those were moments when I was in complete awe of that being, but the being wasn't doing anything to create the awe. I was just had to, and the dog's odd. We're all odd here. Anyway,
sorry.
It's okay. I have my dog's sleeping.
My chihuahuas.
Oh, how cute! I love chihuahuas.
No, I'm
They're
laughing
wonderful.
because when you said that, the dogs chimed in at such a perfect timing. That was just
Well, you know that God spelled that backwards, D-O-G.
Yeah.
I think they're little gods and goddesses. I really do. So I've had a lot of experience at that level, but I can't put labels on it other than to say that it might have been a Archangel Michael type of energy, and it was very loving. And I was taken through the final days of my addiction with somebody who was staying with me, and I get very emotional when I even think about it because of the higher energy that was coming through. And he pretty much worked with me to make the choices of stopping meth finally for good. And I was given an infinite amount of time to work through it and process, even though I knew that the person or the being that was inhabiting and had taken us up the frequency levels couldn't stay forever. I knew that it was I was in a window, but when you're in a window of higher dimension, there's no time.
Right.
There was no time whatsoever, and so I suspect that we're heading for some moments when it might be possible that light, the electrical grids will go down because that has to happen in this process. I don't know if it has to happen for all of us, but I do know that the artificial grids have to be brought down, and I think that the sun will facilitate that, and it's even conceivable that the sun will shut down for a few days, and that we'll be left in complete darkness. And so those of us who are aware of these things can prepare by accustoming ourselves to withdrawing from the grids that maintain the lower frequencies, such as the electrical grids, the food grids, anything that's artificial, anything that's electrical, all input, magazines, television, even the conspiracy sites. Just start unsubscribing or just don't pay any attention to it. Go within and listen only to the information that is coming through your own higher frequencies, because we can all tap into that, and that's how we'll get through the initial shock and awe of things that will be potentially confusing. It has the potential to be confusing.
But like it's not confusing enough already.
Oh,
no,
that's no. I know what you're saying, and I agree with you, but it's a paradox in that we ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, I know.
This is the calm before the storm.
You ain't seen that yet. You ain't seen.
I've got news for you. And we'll be hooking up on the internet, and we're doing that now, but there will be a moment in time, because it has to happen in time, and I think that it will. I've been through it. I've been through a black hole. I went through a black hole when I was living in San Francisco, and Barbara Hand Clow writes about this in her book, The Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, which is probably the greatest handbook on the planet today for the times that we're in and making the shift and opening to all 9 dimensions at once. People keep talking about, we're moving into the 4th dimension and 4th dimension this, 4th dimension that. The 4th dimension is bullshit. That is, it's largely an artificial construct by the draconian Dark Lords and the reptilians and all the offshoots, the Nordics. They're all everybody's in on this except us. We're the dumb clucks that are just being milked for our energy. And so
we're the assholes taking it with no grease, huh?
Yeah, really. So,
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but basically we're the only ones.
The 4th dimension.
Yes. So there is an artificial construct, a hologram that which has numerous dimensions in it. But what we aren't aware of, and the higher dimensional beings, the avatars and the ascended masters, they're all underneath the 5th dimension. That's part of this false creation, which it even goes back to the Gnostic Gospels. You can read about the false creation and the false god Jehovah. George Cavazos talks about this, and Jehovah is one of his incarnations is the planet Saturn, and he's basically a renegade god that has, psychopathic qualities to him, but at the very least. But once you see through the game and you realize that from the 5th on, once you get through the Great Barrier, the organic barriers, and you penetrate them with your own inner light, and you're connected to all that is, the light that's everywhere, the prana in the air, whatever you want to call it, then it's you can see the various elements of the game, and it's really it's easier to spot anything that's artificial or false or manipulated, and that's basically everything that we see here, so on and so forth, with the 5 senses, because that's where we've been snared and kept down. But once you're tuning into the higher senses, and they start to come online, they come on all at once. It's just they're not as intense. They start to get more intense, and you have 360-degree vision, which means you can see up, down, sideways, and backwards. So Barbara Hand Clow's book tells us through Pleiadian channelings how to connect with all 9 dimensions at once, and there's a beautiful diagram of a person laying on kind of a healing table horizontally, which is flat underneath them, and then it goes down into a triangle, and above is a canopy, which is the 4th dimension. The organic 4th dimension is designed to be a place where all of the higher dimensions, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and the rest of it, are merged so that we're not overwhelmed. That is a place where we can pull through polarity any dimensions we like, or any mixture of dimensions, and create archetypes of beauty and love and music and light and the rest of it. Well, the rulers of this dark planet, this dark system, we aren't in a dark system. We're not in a system. It's supposed to be a system of light. It's turned into a system of darkness. and because of the overlays that are confusing our minds. But they have numerous frequency barriers that are beginning to break up at the level of the fourth density. So we can't. It's been difficult for the higher dimensions to come through, and it's been difficult for us to make the connection back. We're not that we aren't already connected, but they have figured out a way to distort and keep the connection so difficult that it's much easier to just get lost in first, second, and third gear. But we have all these other gears up to 360 available to us, so why wouldn't we want to take the car out, our own human physiology, empower it to be the Ferraris and Lamborghinis and ships that they are, and go flying, all over the known and unknown galaxies. So I think that people are beginning to break through that, and we can, and we must. We have to make the effort now, because the savior mentality was designed by Jehovah to keep us under control, and that all has to be broken down as well.
Have you experienced conscious, intentional out-of-body travel?
Myself moving out of body?
Right. Where
no.
you intentionally project yourself?
Oh, in small ways, yes, but not intentionally. No. I'm reading a book right now by William Buhlman, Buhlman,
right,
called Adventures Beyond the Body. And
good work.
Isn't it nice?
Yes.
He's going to be on the show on December 17th, and he's got a wonderful DVD called The Path, and it's all about near-death experiences and leaving the body. It's a really moving and very high spiritual work, and so I'm doing my research for the show, and I'm loving his descriptions of leaving the body and how it works and the vibrations and all that, but I haven't done that myself.
Well, maybe
I've been out.
Maybe doing this interview with him will spur something within you, because there's a whole nother perspective. Perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to have you on my show so you can talk about it.
See, we kind of see
this now.
I kind of see this reality that we're existing in as this is one of the many playgrounds that are that our consciousness has created throughout the cosmos, for lack of a better term, to have fun, to experience, to learn, and to grow. Now, it's not. I don't want people to take this wrong, but for lack of better terms, it's not that important. What we have here, the physical experience, this dimension that we're existing in is in the grand scheme of things is not that important. There are so many more out there for us to, if this place goes poof, all of a sudden, boy, we're just going to all go somewhere else that we'd rather be, somewhere else to experience something. Now, what I see what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a fun, a much more enjoyable experience here. Hence and the way this particular reality was set up is we come in losing our memory. We come in like we're with the separation. We come in with that separation, and we're training this physiology, this body, these egoic minds to be able to interface with our higher self, interface with the greater consciousness. And this process, the learning and teaching process that we're going through, and this has been reached throughout the ages by select or different teachers or mystics and schools, and throughout all history there have been those who have been able to reach close to these places. But what we're working on doing is bringing all of the masses, everybody here, up to that point where we've trained ourselves and learned enough and we've taught ourselves enough to be able to have that connection and that interface with our greater selves, a greater reality, to be able to use this place as a how about a vacation resort or
right.
I mean that's how that's really how I see what this whole process here that we're going through is we are just trying to train this human condition to and teach this human condition to access our greater selves, the greater consciousness.
That's Tom being connected. That's what he sounds like when he connects.
Oh boy.
I can tell the difference now when it's coming from Tom's intellect and Tom's higher self when he connects.
And which one was that?
Yeah.
That was Tom's higher self.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
If you asked him to write that down for you, he'll be like, huh?
Right.
Ask me what I said 5 minutes from now, and I won't have a foggiest idea.
Isn't that amazing how we channel information and it comes through us on the radio? I mean, sometimes I don't usually listen to my own shows, but sometimes I'll listen to a particular one, and I'm thinking, who was what? Where did I don't know that stuff? You know, where'd that come from? So I know that I channel a lot. I mean, you get me started, and I'll start channeling something, and sometimes information just starts coming out. And I think we're all channels, and it's a matter of opening the channels. And I think that's what we've been talking about all night. You know, for the last couple of hours, is how to open the channels. And of course, everybody has different techniques and different needs and different paths. But the most obvious one is to clean out the physical first, or work on them all simultaneously. I mean, again, it's up to the individual. We can step on the gas, you know, and we can stomp on the brakes. So
the car metaphor is excellent. The car metaphor is excellent. If you don't do maintenance on your vehicle, the damn thing's going to break down. If you don't, you know, if you don't put, you know, new oil in it, you know, and put that high octane gas and you know, change your air filter and your oil filter, you know, all these things. You don't do that stuff, it's not going to operate optimally. And
that's right.
And we've been operating these physical bodies in the sludge. And
oh my God.
I mean,
sludge isn't the word for it. It's a minefield out there, and each cell is a conscious entity within us. This is our universe. We are singularities, and so we are God in our own universe, literally. And when you begin to treat your body as the God that it is, the God within, then you start getting these communications from your cells and the mitochondria and the bacteria, and it's such an amazing, vast realm. And the subtle senses of each cell start to pick up information, and you start tuning in. You can tune into it. It's really quite an amazing process. I'm just every day that I'm alive, I awaken a little bit more to new things, and fortunately, it opens the mind, which is I need to be out of my mind to get in my heart, and so. It's just an amazing process that is going on. And, of course, it's interesting that distilled water cleans machine parts. Yeah. So the analogy continues.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny, I've been teaching there's a student of mine, and with him, the last 2-3 classes, it's hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just everything went quiet for a second. It almost feels like I'm channeling information because I'm saying things, and I think he's picking up on it, that where I'm talking from is a whole different thing, because his eyes just open up wide, and he's like, and you see the little light bulbs going off.
Uh-huh.
And I remember one of the things I was explaining to him about, he's the only student I give very, well, in the English field, I give him very weird fucking classes, like, in the sense that Okay, go look up alchemy and tell me what that's about. Go look up at sacred science. Tell me what that's about. Look at UFOs.
Oh.
See what evidence you could find. Things like that.
Wow.
So his daughter, who speaks English very well, was like, "What kind of teacher do you have?"
Well, that's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, our classes has really grown, and I'm not really teaching English other than I'm speaking English.
Right.
But I'll give you an example of one of the things, and let me see if I can remember it correctly. But I was talking about cycles and how we, in Western society, and that's changing, but in Western society, we look at as, okay, we start in A, so we're born, we move on to B, C, D, and, we grow that way. And I said, that is not reality. I said, what reality is a cycle. So you have down your winter, spring, summer, fall cycle, right? And then onto that you have overlay the north, south, west, east. And that's a cycle in itself. And then you have your 24-hour, that's another cycle, that's a circle. And these circles keep going around and it's spiraling up. And as I'm telling him this, his eyes are just opening up, and that's when he said, "Did you know this before? Where is this coming from?" And I think that's when he picked up that where I was coming from wasn't intellectual. I was like, and then that's when I stopped and I said, "Oh shit, I was just channeling some information."
Right.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, that's being around guys like listening to your show and being around Tom.
It's all within you, and you can tap into it, and anybody can tap into it. I'm just a normal well, I can't say I'm normal. I'm abnormal. But we can all tap into the field of genius.
You look like a normal person.
Well, that's an illusion. Smoke and mirrors. Thank you very much. Yeah, sometimes I look in the mirror and I thought, who in the heck are you? And how did you get so old? But anyway, ba-dump.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were channeling from the field, which is genius. Pure, there's no limit to the advanced thoughts that we can tap into that are not necessarily our own, and that's what I love about these times is that as the veil starts to thin, as it continues to thin more, we will be merging with these truly advanced thoughts that we've been shielded. We've been kind of, in a sense, we've been protected, you could say, by the energies of control and limitation, and the dark side, if you want to, and we have been pretty much kept in a state of babyhood. So now all of a sudden it's like the slingshot. It's been pulled, or the rubber band, it's been pulled as tight as it can get in the direction of density, and now it's going to be released, and we're going to just go snap. And I think it's going to be such a fast transition that we won't even have a lot of time to think about it if we're lucky.
I've always had this sense within myself my whole life, even before I started the quote-unquote wake-up process, that no matter what, in the end, it's all going to be okay.
Right.
And when I did start my wake-up process and recognized that sense within myself and was able to acknowledge it and contemplate it and really go deep with it and know the truth of it, it cleared the worry out of my life, which in turn smoothed the path in front of me.
Yes.
So, and I know that there's of course there's turmoil ahead for the world, and we've got things that are coming that are going to be distasteful to even witness, or let alone participate in or be subject to. But
you're right.
There are those who if can gain and grow that consciousness within themselves, that connection within themselves to higher self, to source, to God, to whatever you want to call it, if that connection can be formed and reinforced and in the state of growth, then that path it becomes miraculous. And in those real difficult times that you're witnessing others experiencing don't seem that difficult for you for some reason. You have things that will cross your path, but the solution is right there for you all the time.
That's right.
And when you're connected like that, that solution becomes apparent.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And the other thing that happens in that process that you were just talking about, which is so accurate and so real for me, is that everything becomes increasingly synchronous. And you begin to notice the ongoing synchronicity. It might start out with, half a dozen things that are synchronous, and then all of a sudden you start paying attention and focusing on the synchronicity. And at some point, everything is nonstop synchronous, no matter which direction you tune to. And it's kind of like, I use an analogy that it is like being in a jet plane at night that's landing, and it sees the landing lights, and the landing lights are the synchronicities. And the closer we are able to hold our frequency, our higher frequency, or connect with the higher frequency, then the more synchronicity begins to show us like landing lights. And it's at some point you just know if you're veering too far right or left. Now, I haven't gained a mastery over controlling that, but there's another little trick you can use, and that is to just remember that everything is in synchronicity, whether you know it or not. And sometimes that'll click you into the awareness that everything literally is synchronous. This conversation, what we do after we hang up, everything is in perfect synchronicity. So if you just have that thought will kick you back into that dimension.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Definitely. Yeah, very well said. It's funny how for me the worrying stop, it was a little bird. You know that saying, the little bird told me?
Oh yeah, I like that.
That literally happened to me, and it was the year was 1997, and I had just gotten fired from a very plush job. Well, the term was used laid off, but it was same difference. And it's been several months, and I didn't have a dime. I didn't have any money. Refrigerator was empty, and the only way I was eating was going to a friend's house or my mother's house to eat. And I'm sitting there, and this little bird comes, and I'm talking to and I said, I hope you brought me good news, man, because I could really use some. I'm really stressed out. I'm so broke. And he like chirped. It was I think it was either a sparrow or a chickadee. And he like chirped a little bit, and then he flew off. And then something clicked and said, let me go to the mail. I ain't got nothing else better to do. Cable's shut off, so his phone's shut off. So
all right.
So I go downstairs.
Been there.
And there's a check for $3,000 from unemployment, and I said, "Holy shit!" And that's when I paid my phone, I paid my rent was late. I paid all these. I was able to pay all these things all at once, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And that's when I said, "There's no reason to be stressed. It doesn't." That's when the light went on. It was like, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the situation. I was stressed out of my mind, and it never helped. Yeah,
exactly. It might give you some gray hair for a distinguished look, but who wants gray hair prematurely? You know.
Oh, it depends. Yeah. Some people actually look really
cool. And that's a good example about abundance.
Yes.
People are hooked on this idea that they're not abundant and that they don't have enough, and that is simply it's meme engineering. It's meme thought control. And when you perceive lack, then you live in lack, you create lack. So if you realize that you are in abundance, even without electricity, in fact, the people without electricity and phones might be more abundant than those who have them. So there's a flip side to everything, and society sees everything upside down and backwards. I've always said that, and I stick with what I've said before. And so abundance is, we are abundance. And everywhere we go, we are in abundance. Even if we're hungry, we are in abundance. So just, all you have to do is, it's like that trick with synchronicity. Just know that you are in abundance. And most of us don't have the problems that you were talking about. Although I lost my job at the same time, and somehow we land on our feet. It's that team that we all have. We all have a team. And if you don't like the idea of people looking over your shoulders, like angelics or this or that or the other thing, you can just consider that your higher self or your oversoul, if you like.
Yeah.
Or your essence, the Divine Mother, whatever blows your skirt up. It doesn't really matter.
I went through a period where when I started thinking about the when people the near death experiences where they come back and say, my whole life flashed in front of my eyes, and it's all, and talking about, yes, everything that we do is all recorded, and I started thinking about that, and I went, oh my God, oh no, they saw all, oh jeez.
Oh yeah.
That's that review process when you stand in front of the mirror and you look at your life and you say, and I think everybody does this when they go through the real wake up process, when they go through the self-examination. Who am I? Do I love myself? They go through that when they look in the mirror and they review those things in their lives, and some of those things are not really very pleasant for I think all of us have that. But
I just had a small little epiphany when you said that, Tom. So, okay, and I'll try. I know sometimes I'm not great at explaining things, and
man. You do fantastic, Ramon.
I think I'm better at telepathy. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about the idea of hell. Okay, so when you hear, I've heard a lot of spiritual teachers say that the hell that people experience is the hell they put themselves to. Now, this idea that was given to us by the Catholic Church of hell and eternal damnation, if you feel like that's the kind of person that you've been and that's what you deserve because you've fornicated before getting married or whatever BS, you put yourself, after you pass away, you put yourself in this eternal damnation and you stay there. And I feel that because consciously so many people have created this eternal damnation and they feel that they deserve it, that fear and pain they're going through is being fed off by somebody else or something else.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're given the idea of hell is because when we die, we're able to keep feeding these beings.
Yeah.
And that's why we have a hell.
Wow.
And I was like, holy with the idea, I saw these flashes of hell in my head, and it was like, oh, that's why. So it
Ramon, that is brilliant.
It makes so much sense to me that, like, holy shit.
Yes, it does. That is pure genius. You just
because how else can you? How can else you feed yourself? If you're feeding off these beings, it's like they're gonna die. Well, how can I keep feeding off them?
That's
because
right.
Because if not, they're gonna move into the light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Hang on. So I marked this in your book yesterday, and as something that I may read on the show. And Ramon just presented the perfect time. This is out of The Coming Shift, a chapter in your book.
Okay.
These funny folks from a slightly higher dimension feed off of our negative energy. Hence, There have always been wars, pestilence, religious battles, and so on. It is in their interest to keep their food source in a frenzy. The more worked up we are with violent behavior, the juicier the meal. That's out of Lance's book, the Tales of
Synchronicity.
Yeah,
Tales
I
of
marked that last night. So
Synchronicity. Oh God.
It gave me a few good lines to write, and that was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you.
Speaking of Lance's book, real quickly here, guys, there is some very insightful material in there. The first half of the book is mainly recounting Lance's his trials and tribulations through his growth process. But in the back of the book, he gets into the current events, what's going on, what's happening with our consciousness, with our growth, with the world, and that, to me, that there's the meat and potatoes of the book right there. You guys will really get something out of that. So I urge you to pick this up. So kudos to Lance on the book.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Is this your first book, Lance?
Yes, it is.
Wow,
yes, it is.
That's,
and
you need to keep writing, because that's your job.
I was told I needed to write a book all my life. I talk to people at counters at Rainbow Bow Grocery, and the gal there would say, you've got to write a book. And people kept telling me, you've got to write a book. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. And it turned out to be a lot more difficult than I thought, but it was a heck of a lot of fun. And now I'm contemplating something that will embody the information that I have gleaned and learned, not only from all of my wonderful guests. I mean, I have just been so blessed with the most incredible people on the planet. And honestly, out of all of these people that I've had on the show in 6 years, I would say there have been no bad eggs. There's some interesting asides that I will never share about anything that's negative, but there might have been one kooky person, but they've just been wonderful, sharing, loving people. And so there's all the books that I've read by all these wonderful people, and the videos I've watched, and then my own research, and then my own digging into my own self and experimenting with my own body. So I feel like there's more information that I could share that might help, that I can pull forth since the book was published in 2007, this being 2011. But, it's in the hands of spirit, because it seems like the hourglass has tilted, and there may not be enough grains of sand left, but if I'm inspired to do it, I'll do it. And if spirit wants me to do it, or my team says, okay, write your book now, but just make it quick, make it snappy. Now that you know how to do it, just do what you did before, only better. Then I'll do it. So, and if this book gets some feedback and some purchases so that I can afford to do it, then, and I hate to say that because I've heard other people say those things, and I always roll my eyeballs and go, oh, there's another money-grubbing, New Age spiritual person.
I don't think anybody gets that from you, Lance. Not at all.
No. You don't get rich off of selling books, believe me. And, I've been living off of disability for about 6 years now. I'm totally disabled with AIDS, and my income is $825 a month. So I have managed to maintain myself within that budget for 6 or 7 years now. And so I am living in abundance, and it's a level of abundance that may...
Hello?
Lance?
Uh-oh. We lost him.
All right.
We got you back?
Hello?
So you were living in abundance. That's where you got cut off.
And just to be happy with what we have, and not keep dreaming about, the pie in the sky, comparing ourselves to other people, and if only I had that, if only I had this. We have a wealth within us, and that is the real resource that we can draw from, which is the Creator, the God, Goddess, all it is within us. That's the star of our own universe, our own galaxy, and we are the singularity that is bridging these worlds above and below. And so it's time for us to embody the greatness that we are, and to truly step up to the plate of our own lives and hit that ball out of the ballpark and listen to the cheers, because we all have that within us. Nobody is better or worse than anyone else as far as I can see. And, have compassion and love and assistance for those who don't have as much, who might be suffering or who might need a helping hand. That truly is, to me, the meaning of life.
Yeah. It's something James James Gilliland, he always says that nature itself is so much abundance. And I'll give you an example. So I grow mint here, and mint is a perfect example of abundance. So when you cut the mint to make mint tea or use for your food, or however you want to use it, or even the mojitos, you take the stem from that. If you cut those stems and you let them sit in water for 2-3 days, each one of those pieces you cut, let's say you cut each one to an inch, they'll grow roots, and then you plant that. And then now, instead of having one plant, you have however many little pieces you cut.
Oh, wow.
So
I did not know.
that's abundance there. So nature naturally is an abundance. It's that, again, these a-holes that have forces, and in a way it is a very good thing, because now we have to realize that, we've done this. We tried your way. It sucks. Let's go back to the nature way, because nature gives us everything we need, and the way nature, if we work with nature the way nature works, and program our technology to work with nature, it's such a faster growth than trying to work against nature, which is what we've been doing, and that's why we're in the crap we're in.
Absolutely. So, I couldn't agree with you more. That was so beautifully said, too.
So let's segue a little bit.
Okay.
Lance, what do you think about disclosure? Do you think it will ever happen?
Oh, boy, that's a good one. I've had Stephen Greer on my show and other people who have had contact with various groups, ultra-dimensionals, higher dimensionals, extracelestials, and so on. So I know that all of that exists, and I know that this planet has been in a control paradigm for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, possibly even from the beginning, but in particular over the last 500,000 years to maybe several million. So I think that as things unravel, I think there's a disclosure is already here. The people who really want to know what's going on will purchase the books and watch the YouTube videos and do the research to find out. And at some point, the artificial reality constructs that have been propped up for so long will start collapsing. And I think that, like Cliff High says in his wonderful Shape of Things to Come reports, and he's got a new one coming out, I think, in another week or two. I urge everybody to check his work out at Half Past Human. But I think that there will be so many whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, because they won't be controlled anymore by blackmail or by money. When money becomes worthless, which it already is, but when the consensus reality realizes that money is just that there's nothing, it's less than worthless, then there will be a major collapse. And I don't know when, but now there are sources that I'm tapping into that indicate within the next 3 weeks to 3 months there will be some kind of major collapse. So whether there is or not doesn't matter. But what matters is that once people can't be controlled by the government and the military and so on, and the power elite, then there's going to be a massive uproar. And if those that think that they're in control want to try to retain that, they most likely will have to come up with plan B, C, D, E, F, and G to disclose themselves in a controlled manner. And I don't see that happening in any kind of way that suits me, because there's no transparency and there's no truth. So I'm all for it, but I'm in a, wake me when it's over mode, you know.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you know, seeing UFOs and the rest of it is very ho-hum for me. It's kind of like, okay, another UFO picture. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell what's real and what's not real. They're holographic technologies that are in the possession of the elite, and technology so far advanced that they can really pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I mean, even the planets are artificial. The moons around Jupiter are false. Our moon is fake. You know, so people don't even know these things. It's time to start waking up and investigating outside the limitations of our material realm, and what star blew their nose on you know, somebody else's toilet paper. You know, it's just when you think it can't get any more trivial, you know, what's trending now? Well, who gives a shit? You know, what's trending now? The Earth is breaking in two, dummy. You know, wake up and smell the coffee. You're thinking. But, you know, everybody's got their own wake-up point, and, you know, we can't rush things. So I'm all for it, but I wouldn't count on the powers that be to ever disclose anything intentionally. They'll have to go down dragged by a horse and a rope, you know, strung together, before they even begin to say give. So I don't expect it to happen until the very last moments of this reality.
Yeah.
Well, what do you see? It's late in the year, so what do you see happening for next year? What is your, if you can tune in, and what's your intuition telling you about next year?
Well, there will be a continued divide between us who are listening, the way-showers and the seers and the visionaries and the psychics and the empaths, and there will be a much greater connection and bond between us and between the synchronicities that are really running things. And so this kind of subterranean light realm that we are inhabiting will begin to surface closer to the surface and vibrate slightly above it, and when it starts breaking off, it will be seen for the truth that it is, and that the way-showers will be here too. And that could be kids. That could be your children. It could be your grandchildren. So the way-showers don't necessarily have to know a lot about spirituality or metaphysics. Some of us have had the path of doing that and learning things and having gurus and the rest, and that's all great and dandy. But it isn't necessary. People will be waking up who just came in. So I think we're going to see a greater awakening. We're going to see the truth start to break away from the falseness and the control paradigms. And those who continue to cling to it will continue to go down in flames. And I think that's going to accelerate greatly in the next year for sure.
So what do you think? What about the 100th monkey effect? What if this unity consciousness gets, the 100th monkey effect is triggered with unity consciousness?
I think that will be a co-creation of the outer and the inner, the above and below. And it will be a process of those who are now stepping up to the plate and owning their own power and sovereignty, such as you and Ramon and myself, and all the way-showers that we talk to, and so on and so forth. And those who are not in the public eye, as I said, we will be tilting the scale, and it's like a teeter-totter. Imagine two kids on a teeter-totter. You know, they're playing, and maybe a little girl and a little boy, and that represents polarity and duality. Well, at some point, one of the kids tilts to the 50% mark, and it will only take a nanoparticle, a leaf perhaps, maybe something even smaller, a cell, a speck of dust, to tilt that scale in the other direction so that the one child would be up in the air. And that's the point at which the 100th monkey principle, I think, will take effect, and it will be boosted by the assistance that we have waiting for us to rise to the occasion. And I think that the Earth Mother, the Divine Mother within the planet, if you want to see it that way, it doesn't matter how you see it, but the being that is the Earth will also be sitting up to take notice. She is awakening, and she'll literally sit up and correct the tilt. And I think that that's the purpose of the tilt. All of these cycles that we have been in will cease to be. They will come to an end. So astrology as we know it will not be continuing, as far as I can see, into 2013 and beyond. We won't even be in this sector. So it's going to be for us. And it depends on what, the choices that we've made and where we, which path we choose to exit. But for those of us who have come in here to experience the organic shift, then I'm in alignment with pretty much with what George Kavasla says, that there will be organic portals everywhere on the planet, because otherwise how would people in hospitals, people who are paralyzed in jails and institutions, find their portal out? We all have our own portal. We all contain a black hole within us. So we will be reversing and going inside out, just like the planet will. The crust will flip inside out into the core, and it's like a toroid, and it will just simply make a quick shift, and the inside becomes the outer, and the outer becomes the inner. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how it works. I don't even know what I said. So if you don't like it, it was channeled. But that's what I suspect, and I've studied a little bit of quantum physics, Nassim Harameyn's work, and a few others, and as I see it, there will be a black hole experience, possibly our individual black holes, and those are located in our houses, within our bodies, and the closer you can move this process within your body as the universe and galaxy that it is, I think the better. I think the easier the shift will be. In other words, the less we externalize it, as something nearby, even, like, I've got to run to my bathroom now to go through the black hole. The organic portal's not in my bedroom. Damn, I'm going to miss it. The less we have to rely on outer props, the more we can see the truth of it, which is that we are the creator who came in to experience its own creation, and that we have always had a way out, and all we have to do is click those ruby slippers and say, there's no place like home.
There you go.
Oh, Lance, it's been such a beautiful time. The information it's been amazing. The way I see the 100th Monkey now, at this day and present, and while you were talking, I think we're all three of us are feeding off each other right now.
Yeah.
I got this. Okay, so the Occupy Wall Street, right? Because we haven't touched on that. But the Occupy Wall Street is one version of the 100th Monkey, and I'll explain it.
Okay.
So the average Joe is starting to realize that they are the 99%, and there's a 1% that is screwing them royally.
Right.
And that we knew for a long time. Most of us listening to the show and most of the people who have these kind of shows, we knew that already. But it got to a point where now everybody knows it. It's no longer, the guy in Afghanistan and the guy in London and the guy in New York City, we all know that now. So that's one version of the 100th Monkey that just came to be. The next one, I don't know what it is, but the next one will be coming soon. And I think it's coming in levels. So now we know that we're being screwed. The next level will come out from the 100th Monkey. So the more those pioneers, trailblazers, the more we do our work, the faster those other levels will come.
Exactly. Very good. Very nice.
Agreed.
It's like waves landing on the beach, and the waves keep getting larger and larger, and for a while, the waves are pretty steady. But remember that the Earth has been held in check by the moon, which is an artificial construct. So once the moon is out of the way, the waves are going to be, we don't know, because that control device of gravity and containing the feminine elements will no longer be in place. But I see that disappearing at some point before this is all over, that the moon will be removed, or somehow it will have a collision, and the restraints that it has provided here will be released. So the waves are going to get larger, and we see that in incarnations with the children, the indigos and the crystals. Now I don't even know what they're up to. They're up to
rainbows and
beyond rainbow, over the rainbow. What's over the rainbow? It's an old crystal.
Gold child. The golden children will probably be after the rainbow.
Emerald.
Exactly.
Emerald. It's the Emerald Cities over the rainbow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then you're back. Then we're back in Kansas. Oh my God, Dorothy, we're back in Kansas. Toto, get over here, Toto. So, and I know a lot of people want to take their dogs with them in this ship too. So I have friends that are planning on leaving this reality with their animals, myself included. So, yeah.
There was something that George said, and I think he said that, I don't know if it was on our show or whose show. I get confused because I hear him in so many different shows. But
yeah,
he said that you don't even have to worry about the animals because they're naturally going to know. Like,
right.
you might...
Right.
You think that you're gonna have to help your animal find it, and it might be the other way around. Yeah,
that's right.
He might be the one barking, saying, "Hey, you over here, this way."
That's
and you're
right.
like, "No, go away."
Yes,
yeah,
and the cats see other dimensions. The dogs hear and smell in other dimensions. So we have all this guidance around us. And how many times have we heard about various animals running for the hills, and within minutes an earthquake goes off? Dogs, cat, all of it. They know this before it happens.
So, yeah,
the early warning system. So we're safe and protected. I believe from the highest levels. Nothing else makes any sense, and it is all out of love. And but maybe it's a love that we can't quite, with the limitations of our consciousness and minds, we can't quite wrap our heads around, or our hearts even, around the levels of love that exist and how it exists. But we can certainly work on developing that while we're here and connecting from the heart. And that is, I think that's one of the ways that we can close those filaments of light, but through love.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our DNA reacts as well. Bruce Lipton was on the show, who wrote the book. Oh gosh, now I'm going to blow it here. I can't remember.
He wrote several books.
Yeah, he wrote Spontaneous Evolution.
Yes.
About the the love. I'm just paraphrasing now, but that love literally unravels the DNA and straightens it out like a ladder, Jacob's ladder, and fear, anger, and hate cause it to coil and contract. So those of us that are, people can poo-poo the New Age light and love movement all they want, and yes, it can be a trap to just look at one side or the other, but it also does have a tendency to unravel the DNA, and that's the ladder that, who cares how we get out of the fire? If the fire brigade brings a ladder and you're in the top floor and the ladder's there, you're going to go down it. Who cares if it's a ladder of light and love or a ladder of intellectual manifestations and you created it with the thought forms? I mean, I'm going to get on that darn thing and crawl out of the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's all good. And I do agree that there's a 100th monkey element that will hit. But I think it's going to be so precisely timed. I mean, I just keep getting that, when the shifts occur, it's going to be a spontaneous, something spontaneous of so many different things coming together at the same moment that they all fuse like a singularity. And I just, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it will look like. I really don't. And I don't know who's going and who ain't. So all we can do is just speak for ourselves as far as I can see, and empower one another to go within and listen to our own intuition and our own inner guidance, however you want to label or see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was I don't know why, but this joke came up in my mind. The one, it's a very popular one. The one about the flood and the man on the house. Do you guys know that one?
Oh yeah, I sent you 3 cops, and yeah, I sent you a cop, a boat, a dog, all that stuff, and yeah. You know, that's
like when the man dies. Oh, let me just tell the host.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
The first the house is flooding, and a rescue boat comes by, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna wait for God to save me." And the second one, and I think a helicopter or whatever is, there's different versions. And he was like, "No, I'm waiting for God to save me." And the third one, the neighbor or boat something, and "Oh no, I'm waiting for God to save me." And then finally he drowns. And he says, "How come you didn't save me?" He says, "I sent you 3 boats, 2 boats and a helicopter."
Exactly. I love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
You know,
and
everything here is a metaphor, and you know, even our physicality is a metaphor. You know, when I really contemplate who I am, the ultimate, well, not ultimate, but what I come to is that I don't even exist. And even if I did exist as an individual entity named Lance White, if you think about the idea that there is no past and future, that this must have already happened, we're just holding a place here, then we're already bygoners. We've already done this, and we've lived and died, and we're sitting somewhere else. Our true nature is kind of just tickling and playing with this reality and maybe touching it up a little and adjusting it. And who knows what's really happening, but, you know, I don't consider myself to be unique, but, you know, we have this paradox of having an individual body, but, you know, there is that higher self aspect, and that I consider to be the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm seeing that more and more people are starting to open up to is that if it's not in the right package, I don't want it. It's the same message, but because it's not in my package, the way it's designed in my mind to be, then I don't want anything to do with it. So, you know, like, I don't want to listen to Lance's show because he's gay, or I don't want to listen to Ramon because he's this or this, you know, like, and
the Creator has a sense of humor.
Yes.
What better place to hide the truth than into, you know, in the people who are degraded and considered the most reviled on the planet, the opposite of the spiritual Christians and the moral righteousness of the right wing. You know, where else would be better to hide the truth and the wisdom than in the people who are hated the most?
Yeah.
That's where I would go to look. And when I start hearing, when I listen to people talk, I have my bullshitometer and my truthometer on. And when I start, when the scale tips into the, you know, manipulation and lies area, I just walk away. But you can find the truth anywhere, and the best place I found is, as you said, in the birds, the bees, insects. I mean, you can look down on the grass and communicate with a bug, and have a more interesting conversation than a Christian fundamentalist.
Yeah. And you know what's funny, and I'm sure you definitely experienced this. I don't know if you remember when we were interviewing Mona Killinger or Mona Delfino.
You're right.
When we were talking about intuition, and I said, you know, amongst the drug dealers is. Those are the people I know who use intuition more than the average person. I mean, even sometimes more than the and you say, well, how is that? Because then their intuition should tell them they shouldn't be in that business lifestyle. But some of them have lasted that long because of their intuition. And
that's right. Right.
And did you ever experience that? Like,
oh yes, oh yes.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yes, I don't know. I have tried to understand it, and all I can say is that I suspect that certain drugs stimulate the connections to the faster bodies, because all these different bodies exist within us. They're finer. They're still made out of matter, but they're finer matter. So when you speed up the molecular system of the human body, the brain starts to fire faster, and I think it connects to these higher bodies, and you start to connect to realities that are there, and that's what makes people crazy, is because they start to actually hear and see things that they're not ordinarily tuned into, and that really is their downfall, is the paranoia. But if you're not, subject to that as much as other people, and you understand what's going on, you can tap into higher realities and, experience all kinds of interesting states. I wouldn't recommend it as an experience, but it does happen.
It's been used. It's been used throughout history. All the things that alter the mind and the physiology have been used throughout history for to reach those places.
Exactly. That reminds me of what was it? Counting Down to Coherence.
Countdown to Coherence. Yeah.
Yeah. What was her name?
McTaggart?
No, that's not Lynn McTaggart.
Hazel Courtney.
Yeah, Hazel Courtney. She states that not states, but she has a picture of this 15-year-old crack addict, and I forgot what kind of film they took it in, but it shows her third eye being completely blown open. And
really,
when living in places like San Francisco and New York City, you see a lot of crack addicts, or even other cities, or whatever kind of addicts, and it really does blow things open, because a lot of the crackheads I knew in New York were able to see things. The problem is that because of their lifestyle, and two, there's no filter, they were attracting all the wrong energies.
Right.
And I remember, this is a story I told before, but I helped this crackhead kind of like ground himself, and I said, when you're high like that, I said, you're seeing fucked up shit, right? He goes, yeah, and he couldn't even and he was just jittery, and I said, you want to ground yourself down, don't you? Because you're just getting way too much energy. He goes, yeah. And I said, grab that tree, let that tree know how you feel, and you'll see. And when he did that, he sobered up. And and I was shocked, because I was like, where the hell is this coming from? So as he's grounding himself down with the tree, and he's saying, oh, I love you, and he's kissing the tree, and then he's like, dude, it's working. And then once he let go of the tree, he started bugging out again, and then I said, just stay there as long as you need to stay. I said, people already think you're crazy, so it doesn't matter if you're hugging a tree.
right. That's brilliant. I love it.
So I don't know what happened after that. I left, but I was in shock when I saw how his demeanor was changing.
Wow.
So
interesting.
that's another lesson that I learned from a crackhead, is that if I'm feeling too crazy or too whatever, go grab a tree or stick your hand in the dirt to ground yourself down.
Yeah, very good. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So, we've got an hour and a half in, and
so Lance, why don't we give you an opportunity to leave a parting statement for our listeners, and
where we can find you and harass you,
all that stuff.
Oh, all right. Parting statement. Well, not every day can be a Doris Day. So don't get discouraged, and remember, there's always hope, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so I am living proof that you can live with 30 years of HIV and AIDS, That in itself is a miracle. You can have been an alcoholic for 20 or 30 years, and you can have shot up methamphetamine for 4 years. You can go to prison, you can get in car accidents, and you can do all that stuff. But I recommend the easier, softer way. So don't do what I did, but learn from my experiences. Buy my book, Tales of a Zany Mystic, at Amazon Books, or through www.watermewell.com. And if you want to hear me live and free, you can do so at BBS Radio, and that web address is www.afiresidechat.com.
And your show comes on Saturday.
Saturday night at 7:00 p.m. And there are some shows that I'm doing off the record at BBS, just so people know that. It pays to subscribe to BBS, and I have an affiliate link, so I'm trying to make some money at this finally after 6 years. And I've been assured that a small income stream can come my way. So if I can divert the big river a little bit and be empowered to continue my research using myself as the glamorous guinea pig, then please, folks, do subscribe through the affiliate link. But otherwise, you can listen to it live and free. There is a YouTube channel that is posting all of my shows up for freely to listen to, and I have a wonderful guy that's collaborating with me, Promethean Reach. He's a terrific assist, and
I know him well on YouTube.
And yeah, that's Zany.
Oh, okay. I was wondering who that was, because they send me. I'm so iffy about Skype. So when just a message out there, when anybody Skypes me out there, make sure you say who you are and where you're from, because I get a lot of like, oh, I saw your profile. You seem like a cool guy to talk to. So I like try to ignore a lot of the things. So make sure you say like where you know me from, or because if not, I'm just gonna ignore it.
Right. And I do have an email address, which is zanymystic59@yahoo.com.
Not 69.
No.
Sorry.
I'm reversing the aging process by drinking distilled water. So I actually have gone from 61 to 59. I'm working on getting younger every year.
There we go.
I want to leave here as a baby, as an innocent child.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Well, maybe not innocent. A child, maybe. Nobody's innocent.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening, and I want to thank you again, Lance. This has been enjoyable, and we will talk again.
Definitely, and it's been quite an amazing show, and thank you for writing the book and having the show.
Yeah. Well,
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
There's more synchronicities in there between you and I that I want to talk to you about too one of these days, but we'll get to that some other time. So.
Okay, good. I look forward to continuing the dialogue between us.
Great. All right, guys. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. And who's this we're listening to after we get off here, Ramon?
Oh yeah. We're gonna listen to the Luminaries. And that is Be the Change.
Yeah.
It's a great
track. You get the full version if you hang around for a minute or two. We'll play the whole thing. So.
Yeah.
Love you guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Condemnation without investigation, the height of ignorance, right?
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
All right. Good night.
Yes, I. This song is called Be the Change. Inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us. To the leaders that pass away, put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score to maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting a seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing receive. Due to the media propaganda, killing my creed. Or what don't kill me make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fighting for interest and forwards attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante while the anti-proletariat told the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
light,
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the trees, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
someone who fights for the